So sort of quickly, I'm going to show you, trying to do this from behind the camera and on the tripod. You can see I just have this beam clamped down here. This is just I got a bunch of this pine from a friend of mine, older carver that passed away. So you can see that it tapers. Maybe you can see that. So from nut width here to, pretty standard neck, dimensions, nut width and wider. Normally about 2 3/16 up on the body end of things, and 1 5/8 to 1 3/4 here. A lot of my necks end up at 1 11. And once again, I just wanted to show you that board. If you missed it the first time, Patrick, there you are. Yeah, and so I find it's easier to carve the neck for me. I came up with this, I don't know how many years ago, but I can access it here. I can access it here. I can go around the thing and come over from this side and access it. So it gives me pretty good access. Yeah, and when I first started using this, I hadn't been radiusing my fretboards at that point. I decided sometime later that I would leave them, flat and do all that work before. But that created an issue of me needing to have outside edge support here. So I've taped these strips of, I'm not even sure what this is. It looks like a refrigerator magnet, if you, inside the rubber tube on a refrigerator door, it's magnetic. It looks like I just stripped those out of, I used to have a refrigerator in my shop for storage of volatiles, paints and other things that would need to be in a fire-safe environment. So anyway, I put these on there so that this supports the neck on the outside edge and it doesn't rock around on you. And then the nut's always right about where this slot is. And since I have had guitars in here that had nuts in them still, and then also had a bridge saddle or whatever on them, I put a V down in here. You may not be able to see that from the angle you are, barely. Anyway, because I've recarved some acoustic necks and things like that. People didn't want their guitar necks to be quite so fat, so I've put them on here and done some work. I just mic'd this right here at the 1st fret. I'm at 21 millimeters, and back here at the 12th fret, I'm at 25 and a fuzz. So I'm a lot closer to my, I'm not going to say goal, because I think 25 is thick, and I think 20, which is what I had for down here, is a little thick too, for where I'm after here. I am building this for my grandson. That's why it's a 24-inch scale, and I'm going to give him a pretty thinnish, not super thin, but I'm not going to give him a porky neck either. I'm going to clamp this thing down here. You can see that this got a little bit of movement to it, but I mean, if you've been watching some videos, you've seen these benches just all over the place during carving. So I'm just going to nail this down. Kind of just do this thing where you go from your center line. I don't think I used the facet method when I first started. I'm not sure what I did, to tell you the truth. It's been a long time ago. So just going to draw myself a center line here. And I believe I mentioned earlier that I'm thinking about trying to go with a little more of a V. On this one, I think it'll be a more comfortable neck, and I think especially for smaller hands, it might be better. I have seen a lot of famous people play 24-inch scale necks. It's not an uncommon scale length for a Fender on, I think, I'm not sure if it's the Jazz, it's probably Jaguars, Mustangs. I think the Jazzmasters are 25 and a half. The deal here is, and I'll probably take it out of the clamps again to draw the lines. And I'm not going to belabor this because you guys have seen everybody and their brother do this facet method, and you've seen lots of necks carved. So I'm probably just going to start and then bring you back in after things have progressed. And I don't know if you'll be able to see this or not, but normally you go about halfway down on the neck, the edge of the neck, and then you go halfway between the center line and that, which is here, somewhere in that area. I'll measure it. Don't necessarily need to, but you know, yeah, and out here it's more like that. Anyway, I'm going to move this to more like 2/3 to 3/4 so that I take more material off, more, like I said, more in that V. So I'm going to take this thing off the clamp and draw the lines on it. But I think hopefully I was clear enough on what I was planning on doing. And I have seen other people using their StewMac string spacing rules to do these sorts of things because they're more curvy. See what we have at about this locale. Now pushing 20, so 10 would be half, and 5 would be 3/4, right? Am I doing math, or am I screwing up? Let's just go to, I think I'm right, but anytime the camera is on, I can't actually think or do math. It's just the way it is. So we're going to have, yeah, that's definitely halfway. So we're going to go almost right up to the fretboard with this one. And we'll do the same thing back here. Right up to the fretboard. I'm about 1/8 of an inch off of that. I know I'm going back and forth from millimeters to standard, whatever you call it. Let's get those out of there. One thing about this is it's just short. I do have a longer roller I could use. I have actually thought about just doing the facets and leaving them like Crow has done on a couple builds. I watch his videos, and I think he comes up with a lot of good stuff, but I'm definitely not a I don't think you have to make everything hard to build a good guitar, and I think he does that just for views, personally. Or maybe he really is OCD, just can't help himself. Who knows? Yeah, so I'll go ahead and run this down just a fuzz farther. Now I have a painted body on this thing, and I have since traced the body. Went in the house to trace the body. Then I went ahead and cut this down so the neck sat in the pocket better. So this relationship would be correct. But I pushed it out about 1/4 inch in front of the body. The body has a bit of a curve here, and it's not just totally symmetrical, you know, across the heel. So it's, you know, it comes up high on one side and then kind of drops back on the other. So once I get farther along, I'll get that line back on there, and then because the body's painted, I leave a little bit of a shoulder. If the body was raw, I would, you know, try to trim right to the body, and then after it's glued in, you know, sand it all together and then just finish it that way. But you end up with a little tiny lip right there, and it's just not that big a deal as far as feeling it when you're playing or anything like that. It's really not an issue. And I'm not going to do, you know, like an asymmetrical curve or anything on this. I think some of that stuff too. I've done it. I've done compound radiuses or conical radiuses and other things there. And since I'm talking about other channels, Texas Toast has a good video on the difference between a 12-inch radius, say down to a 16-inch radius. Oh, I keep moving. You know, and we're talking only a matter of a few thousandths between the two. So as long as you've got something flatter than, say, the 7 1/4, the old, you know, Fender 7 1/4, you don't have to worry about choking nuts out. And you know, if you're more into shred, then just do a 16-inch radius board and call it good, or even flatter than that. But doing the compound radius, it's not really beneficial. It's just catchy. Same thing as far as I'm concerned. People, builders, you know, they get these builders and YouTube channels. They get these voodoo things going. It's kind of like the old tone wood debate. You know, you get all caught up and the guy that built my guitar does it this way, and then they think they got a better guitar because the guy put a compound radius into it, charged them another $1,000. It's, you know, it doesn't make sense. All right, so I am going to go from about the same place as I would have, which is about halfway, and I'm measuring just for the sake of measuring. This isn't something I do. I usually just eyeball it. And it's time you get things radiused and, you know, everything rounded off. So we're looking at 21, almost 22. So 11. And I'm back to millimeters just because typically they're easier to divide. So we're getting there. Oh, right there. All right, so close enough. So right on the edge of that walnut there, and here, and then we'll go ahead and do this one. And 26, 13. All right, oh, 13, do both sides while we're at it. All righty. Turn that off. I'm going to grab a, I'll have a hole. All right, now we've got the lines. So I'm going to come back in after I clamp this. I do have to go find a glove. I always forget when I start, and then I end up really tearing my fingers up. I got to play guitar tomorrow, so I'm going to start out with the coarse side of this thing. And here again, my first fret is, you know, just like right here, and bump right there. Once you get that corner off of there, it doesn't jump so bad on you. Okay, I want you to see there, I haven't spit anything. This is real time, so my line here and my line right here is right there. I'm gonna go ahead and continue up here on the 12th. So I'm down to my line here and my line here, and pretty much just connect the dots. So I said I wasn't going to make you watch all this. I'm just going to do this one side, and then I'll turn the camera off. I'll catch the other side up to this, and then we'll go to the next step. right, so I'm all right. Got a little bit of a high spot right there. Yeah, looks pretty good. I don't know how long that took, but that didn't take any time at all. Okay, so now I've got a couple more lines on here, and what I did was just faceted just halfway between this one and halfway between this one, you know, the edge and the center line. And again here, halfway between the edge and the center line. And then center line's here. And then halfway up here. So, yeah, we're ready. And there again, we're just going to make a flat spot from there to there. And I think I'm just going to use the fine side. Unless it seems like it's taking too long, then I'll go back to the coarse. Now they got that corner knocked off of there, I'll try the coarse again. And my lighting is really not that good in here. Now let's go this way. So I'm there. I should just get a brighter light so I can see what I'm doing. Just change these bulbs out to LEDs too. All right, I'm going back to fine just because I'm almost at my line here, and I'm almost at my line on the walnut. So. Erased my line on the mahogany. So again, if you're keeping track of time there, that didn't take long. And once again, I'm going to flip around. I've got a couple lines here I can still see a little bit. You can't feel that, but even with the facets, it's already feeling like a neck. Now, you wouldn't necessarily even have to put the lines on at this point because it's really a matter of just knocking these facets down again to the next, you know, just rounding them off into the rest of the neck. Can always use that as a round tool as well. I have a short block, it's on the other side, that I use with, you know, coarse paper on it just so that I get in a good straight stroke. I also have the, okay, this camera has gone on and off I don't know how many times, and I'm kind of just done with it. So I'm going to keep working here. Goes off again, I'm probably not even going to cover it. So I've just drawn lines here and here. I'm going to connect those. It's just taking this facet off right here. And then, or rather, this line and this line. Take this facet off, and then from this line down to the edge of the fretboard, we'll be just radiusing that little last bit there. And I basically, I won't do it with a file probably, but I'll do it with sandpaper, and I'll radius right up into the fretboard so that we get a nice contour. I don't like to get to a point and then just feel the square edge of the fretboard there. don't panic if you do hit the fretboard. I haven't yet, but it's not, you know, it's not like you're going to want to roll up into that anyway. But okay, now you can see I'm kind of actually rolling the file as I go. All right, and you can also see that the more you go, the more you take off, then obviously the less time it takes, because you're removing a lot less material. Now this is just between the center line and this other line. I don't know if you can see it or not, but the maple had gotten dirty here, and so I'm really not quite to that center line yet. I've actually hit it here in a couple places, hit the bottom line. All right, so I have in essence really just rolled all of that together, and feels really good. I'm going to go ahead and flip it around, do this, and then, you know what? Wait, before I do, I'm just going to grab that block and show you what I'm talking about. So here's a short block with a piece of 100 on it, or I don't think that's 80. It might be 120 actually. But see, if you go like this, you can make sure you're knocking the high spots down in between. This paper is extremely worn out, so I'm not going to really accomplish much with that, but just so you have the concept. And then I also have this, and this paper is pretty worn out too, and this is a sandpaper, a belt sander belt on a block, and these come in super handy. This happens to be a 4x24 size belt sander that I have, and same thing here. You can really, I am going to change the belt on this too. You can really put some pressure on this and dig in, and then it's a little long this way. You don't really get a lot of stroke, but it's 4 inches wide, so it hits the high spots, and it's not going to like give you you know, divots and things like that. Even at this early stage, a lot of times I'll just take an orbital sander to it and sand it out pretty good, and then I'll clean it up with the blocks and hand paper. But before I do all that, I want to get the heel and the nut kind of dug in, cut in. I just had it in my hand. That's wild. Well, I don't know if I've carved with the spoon gouge yet, since I've had this. I might have used it on the neck on the base because I had it to carve the body of the base. You know, these sorts of things are really, really nice. And if you probably needs to be sharpened a little bit. You have to be careful that you don't jump off and get up into here, because you could definitely dig a hole. Here's the file I was looking for. This is Iwasaki. It's a little coarse. I was disappointed because of how coarse this is, but this is the sort of thing where you come in here where you really need to take a lot of meat out. And it, like I said, I think it would be better if it wasn't this coarse, because it's definitely going to lose some material. And I think it's too coarse for what I want to do with it. Or I'm just not comfortable with it yet or something. But this, I'll draw some lines on here for my volute and up into here as well, so that we get this rolled off. I like to roll this off up here till